Yes, I'm afraid it's true and I'm really sorry. After 13 years of making wheeler dealers, I'm now going to be leaving the show. For 13 years, Edd China was the calm giant fixing cars on wheeler dealers. Then everything fell apart. The network wanted to cut his workshop time. He walked away, but walking away cost him everything. His garage went bankrupt. His YouTube channel mysteriously stopped. A Ferrari scandal destroyed his reputation. And his co-host Mike Brewer says Edd did very bad things. The truth involves money, ego, and a 37-second video that changed how fans saw their favorite mechanic forever. It started in London on May 9, 1971. That's the day Edd China was born. But no one could have guessed this tall, curious boy would one day become one of television's most respected mechanics. His childhood wasn't like most kids. His father, an aeronautical engineer, turned their home into a mini industrial workshop. This wasn't a basic garage with a few tools. It was a place where young Edd learned how things work by taking them apart and putting them back together again. While other kids played video games, Edd spent 12-hour days experimenting with electrical systems and mechanical parts. He didn't just play with machines. He studied them, tested them, and rebuilt them until they worked perfectly. Even at a young age, Edd's drive for perfection stood out. He wasn't satisfied if something merely worked. It had to be flawless. His father kept challenging him with harder projects. Over time, the boy who once fixed toys was now building complex machines with moving parts and working electronics. His explanations later on wheeler dealers seemed so simple because for years he had practiced making the complicated easy. But school wasn't so easy for him. He went to King Edward's School in Surrey, a historic boarding school filled with wealthy students who played rugby and cared more about fitting in than fixing engines. At 6 feet 7 inches tall, Edd stood out. And not just because of his height. He didn't care about popularity or sports. He spent his free time sketching machines and solving problems in his head. That made him different. And in that environment, different meant lonely. Yet that same isolation pushed him to trust his own instincts. It was in those quiet moments that Edd decided he'd never trade precision for popularity. When he left school in 1989, he carried that mindset straight into university. At London's South Bank University, Edd enrolled in the engineering product design program. There he truly found his rhythm. The course focused on both creative and scientific thinking, which matched his style perfectly. Professors quickly noticed his ability not just to build but to explain. He could turn dense engineering jargon into simple, engaging lessons, something that would one day draw millions of viewers. While most students juggled a few assignments, Edd was managing 35 car projects at once. That's not a typo. 35. And that's not counting the massive double-decker bus he bought and converted into his home. Yes, while others lived in dorms, Edd lived in a fully wired, heated, and plumbed bus. It became a campus legend. Inside, he had space to work, live, and dream up the next big thing. It wasn't just cool, it was genius. And then came the sofa. Not just any sofa, but the casual loofah. Edd built it to raise money for an expedition to Belize, but it became something far bigger. Using a mini 1,275 cubic centimeters petrol engine and an automatic gearbox, he created a fully road-wheel driving sofa. The controls were hidden in the armrests, the covers were washable, and it could hit speeds of 87 miles per hour. It broke the Guinness World Record for fastest furniture at Goodwood in 1998. More importantly, it proved that Edd didn't just think differently. He delivered. What most people didn't know was that behind the screen there was a family quietly supporting him. His father's engineering lessons had set the tone. His wife Imogen helped manage the business side of his projects. And his father-in-law, he was the stunt director for the Italian job. That connection taught Edd how to blend mechanics with visual storytelling. It wasn't just about building cars. It was about making people care about them. When it came to television, Edd didn't have a plan or connections. He just showed up hoping for anything in the movie industry. That's how Edd China found himself in 1994 hammering a beaten-up Rover for the sitcom Father Ted. He spent a full week destroying the car until it looked just right. Old, miserable, and perfect for a church raffle. It was messy, unglamorous work, but he loved it. It felt right. While the actors were filming in Ireland, Edd stayed behind in London with the junior crew. One strange problem came up. Father Jack's wheelchair needed to move on its own. The crew kept over-engineering it with motors and chains that always failed. Edd looked at it, laughed, and said, "Why not just use a starter motor?" In the end, they pulled it with a rope. But the lesson stuck with him. Simple ideas often win. That moment, small as it was, shaped the way he would approach engineering forever. By 1999, Edd had taken things a step further. He started a company with a ridiculous name, Comfy Banana Limited. But behind the name was a sharp idea: build wild vehicles disguised as furniture. These weren't gimmicks. They were road-legal, fully insured machines. His sofa, car, bathtub, bike, and even a motorized bathroom could all be rented for around $3,000 per event. Advertising agencies and corporate events were thrilled to pay for them. He didn't stop at sofas. He created shopping trolleys, beds, and even a complete bathroom set on wheels. One of his most outrageous builds, the bog standard, could carry passengers in its sidecar bathtub at 68 km/h. What looked like comedy was actually clever marketing and serious engineering. By 2009, he had added another business called Grease Junkie. It was both a garage and a merchandise store tied to wheeler dealers. With every new venture, he built more income streams from his mechanical know-how. He wasn't just a TV guy anymore. He was running a small empire. But long before